Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the Agency Managers Training. My name is Autumn Martin. I'm going to start with a little bit of information about myself. I am a customer experience specialist here at Galaxy Digital. I also come from a nonprofit background, so I have so much appreciation and respect for all of you who are taking this training so you can learn how to make your site as productive and wonderful and just work as well as possible for all of your volunteers. So thank you so much for joining me. This training is for agency managers. However, we've asked site managers to join us as well. You are here because you can get a better understanding of the sort of access that agency managers have, as well as what the volunteer and user perspective looks like. So let's go ahead and check out our schedule. So today we are going to start with the agency manager's perspective. That is all of you. We're going to talk about what it's like to sign up, what it's like to edit your agency profile page, and just some best practices around needs, events, photos, all that good stuff. We are then going to jump over to a preview of what the user's perspective would look like, what it's like to find and respond to needs, what it's like to look at their dashboard, and what it's like to submit hours. We are then going to hop back over to the agency manager perspective, where we can talk a little bit about tracking volunteer hours and what it's like to get into some of the data the site collects. So with all that, we are going to go ahead and jump right in. Before I go any further, I just want to let you all know that everyone is on mute. This is simply to cut back on background noise. If you have a question, please go ahead and type it into the chat box. I will be stopping periodically to answer any of the questions you type in, so please send me all the questions you have. I will be happy to answer them. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and start. So right now I am on the Galaxy Digital test site. So yours might look a little bit different. You also might use a little bit different language. So instead of agency, you might hear the word program. Instead of needs, you might hear the word opportunity, but it is all the same thing, and all those will be in the same place. So let's go ahead and sign in. You will sign in your agency one of two ways. You will either get an email from your site manager letting you know your login credentials, and you will go ahead and log yourself in. Or you will come to the site completely fresh, which is totally fine, and you'll come over here to this click to register your organization button. When you do that, you'll be prompted to answer a couple of questions, and then will be ready to go. I am going to take the form of an agency manager who has already logged in to the software, and I have my login credentials. So I'm going to click login. I am going to enter my information. Wonderful, and I will be taken right to my dashboard. This has some great stuff. We're going to go over it a little bit later in the user perspective. But right now, I am going to come up here and focus on this button that says My Agency. It might say My Agencies if you have more than one, but I just have the one. So let's go ahead and click on it. And when I do, I am taken directly to my agency manager profile. You can see my agency is called East Asheville Animal Rescue. And I'm going to go over what it's like to edit my profile. But before I do that, I just want to take a second to point out this really nifty tool right here, the Agency Manager's Toolbox. Let's click on that. When I click on it, you can see that I am taken to a separate tab, and here is just some really great information that is going to answer a lot of the questions you'll have as agency managers. You will be able to click for more training resources. You'll get some very kind of basic information in the FAQ. You'll get some cool stuff about how to create an infographic. And I think most importantly, you'll get this button right here that says Contact My Site Manager. This is very important because your site managers will be your #1 person or people to turn to when you have questions. So take care of this button and use it regularly. Let's go ahead and head back. Okay, so right now I am an agency manager for East Asheville Animal Rescue. Let's go ahead and start in the agency managers section. You will have one primary agency manager. I am the primary agency manager, and you can see, because I've got a little star next to my name, a little filled in star. You can also have as many secondary agency managers as you like. The only difference between the two is that only primary agency managers will be able to add and delete other agency managers. However, both primary and secondary agency managers can post needs, post events, and do some of the time tracking and stats information that we will get into later. Let's go ahead and see what it's like to enter a new secondary agency manager. So I know that my friend Jackie is signed up in the system. There she is. And when I type her name, she just pops up right here. And when I click it, she will auto-populate down here. You can see the unfilled in star means she's secondary. And the X means that I could remove her if she leaves the organization or what have you. However, I cannot enter someone's name who is not in the system. So, for example, if I try to enter my dad's name, it just disappears. He doesn't show up because, unfortunately, he is not on our website. Okay, let's move over here to agency logo. You will want this to be about 540 by 540 pixels. We just ask for this size to make sure that it fills up this whole box here and it looks really sharp. Moving down, let's talk about basic information. Here we have our agency name. You have a customizable link. What you'll type in here will show up at the end of a web URL. You can see it shows up right here. And this entire URL can be copied and pasted, excuse me, can be copied and pasted into emails, onto social media, and whenever someone clicks this link, they'll be taken directly to your completed agency profile page. So that's a nice little thing to have. Hours of operation, right here you have a free text box, which means that you could type in here whatever you want. For example, if I want Sunday to be employee day, I can go ahead and type that in, no problem. Okay, let's go ahead and head down to causes. So causes are something that you'll want to spend a little time thinking about. These are things that are important, that represent what is important to your agency. So you can see for my agency, what's important to me is basic needs and health. And if I wanted to add another, I would click this drop down and let's say also community. And it just pops up right there. If I want to get rid of them, I will click X. These are important because when users register on your site, they will choose what causes are important to them as well. And if they're the same causes that you've chosen, your needs and events will actually pop up more often in their feed. So that's a nice little way to match to volunteers who will care about what you care about. Moving down, you can enter a link for an agency video, which will show up as an embedded video in the site. Let's go back up here, contact information. So all of this information right here is forward facing, meaning that it is available to anyone who wants to look. So make sure that there's nothing private up there. Moving down, let's check out links. So we have the option to include your official website link, your Facebook page link, or your Twitter account link. Over here, location, you'll want to make sure to type in your full street address. The reason we recommend this is because if you do that, you will have a Google map that will embed itself into the agency profile page. So when users come and check out your page, they'll actually get a little Google map showing exactly where you are. I want to take a minute to talk about these blue update agency info buttons you're seeing everywhere. Just note that every time you see one, you can click it and it will save all that information that you were just working on. So you can see, remember we changed in Sunday Employee Day and it is saved. Let's move down to descriptions. These two sections I think are very important. Let's start with who we are. This is supposed to be a small snapshot of what your agency's mission is, what your goals are, what your future vision is, maybe your history. You can add anything you want in here. Again, this is a free text box, except this time we have all these really great text editor tools. So if you want to highlight and bold something like I have, you can. You can add a picture. You can add a link, or like down here, you can add a bulleted list. Under what we do, this is a little bit more of describing what users will expect when they volunteer with you. So it sort of can be described as just a mini snapshot of what volunteers will expect to do with your organization. So you can see that I've made a bulleted list of some of the sort of needs volunteers can do. Right, I'm going to skip right down here and we are going to talk about photos. You can add as many photos as you like. All you have to do is click this button or drag the file into this box area. And you can see we have this nice selection of photos right here. And that makes your site look, or your agency page look very eye-catching. Okay, that is all I have for your agency profile page. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in. Okay, I am not seeing any questions, but if you have them, please go ahead and finish typing. I will make sure to get to them. In the meantime, let's go from our Edit tab to our Needs tab. Now, the needs is where you are getting into actually what volunteers will be doing for your organization. These are your volunteer opportunities. And when you come to the Needs tab, you are given this nice little table that will show you the name of the need and some basic information about it. You can also do a little bit of editing while it's still in the table by clicking either the top button to select all, or you could just click individually. And once you click these, you can either delete them, you can export a list of the responses, you can export a list of the needs, you can show the inactive needs, which are no longer viewable from the volunteer perspective, or you can show the expired needs, the ones where the time that they happened has passed. You can also add a new need by clicking this button, and I'm actually going to open this in a new tab, and we're going to look at that in a second. But for now, let's go ahead and open an existing need. I want to edit it, so we are going to click Edit under Clean Up the Dog Park. When I do this, I am taken to the need page. And we're going to go ahead and go through all these options. So the first is the title. Just the name of the need is something eye-catching, exciting. Under description, again, we have this free text box with this text editor tool. And you can see that I've added a cute little photo. You can also put a link in here if you want volunteers to click on it for more information. Under the description, you can see there's a spot to either make the need public or private. And we are going to slip down here to duration. So there are several different duration types, and once you've saved it, you actually won't be able to change it. So I'm going to show what that looks like in the other page. Okay, let's open the duration types. So the first one is ongoing. This is a need that doesn't have a start date or an end date. It is constantly happening. I recommend using this one judiciously, simply because it can sometimes get lost in the fray of other needs. It also won't show up on the calendar view when volunteers are looking at their calendar. So I would recommend against using this very often. If you did want to use it, it's a good thing to use for maybe a can drive or a coat drive, something that's just happening all the time. All right, runs until. This is a need that has a hard end date, but between the moment that you create it and the end date, there is really no set time. I see we have a question. I'll get to it soon. Runs until is good for needs that have a hard end time. Like, let's say you have some kind of need that's happening with a school. It's going to happen all the time at the school, but it will end as soon as the semester ends. All right, happens on is a single day need. This is something that can be good for if you need volunteers to like set up tables for a concert or take tickets. That's a good happens on example. Multi-date is was made with the thought of things like mission trips and alternative spring breaks. By that, I mean they're needs that happen for within a specific time period, like a week or a month. All right, custom shifts. I'm going to click on one and show you how this one works. If you have a need that happens with different shifts, you can make custom shifts that happen on different days, different times, with different amounts of people, and last for different amounts of time. So let's show you what that looks like. Let's first make our first shift happen for tomorrow. There we go. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. It's going to last 5 hours, and you need 2 people. Add shift, and you see it pops up right there. However, we're also going to need some people on Thursday at 2 p.m. for 3 hours, and this time we need 10 people. So you can see how custom shifts is something that's really flexible and useful. All right, let's talk about recurring shifts. Once again, this is for a need with different shifts. However, these are shifts that happen at the same time on the same kind of recurring date, and they have the same amount of people required, and they go on for the same amount of time. So let's say that I need tutors every week, every Monday and Wednesday. I need them starting today and ending on May 27th. I need them at 5 p.m. I need them for 3 hours, and I need 5 people. All right, and that is all the duration types. with all of that, let's go back to our existing need. And you can see that this one is using recurring shifts. Excuse me. All right, allow team registration. You have the ability to say you don't want any teams, that you want teams and individuals, or you only want teams. We're going to skip to minimum and maximum age. Minimum, you can put in whatever you want. You can leave it blank. Same with maximum. If you leave maximum blank, it will auto-populate to 120. And it will show up as being minimum age and older. I'll show you what that looks like when we look at the page. All right, you can say if it's family friendly, if it's outdoors. If you click yes on outdoors, you'll get the spot for an inclement weather plan. You can say whether or not it is wheelchair accessible. Now let's talk about attributes. Attributes are just these little snippets of information that you want to really have the volunteers focus. So I've put bring a water bottle and wear sunscreen. I'm actually going to skip the water bottle, so I'm going to click on that and it goes away. But I really want my volunteers to wear a hat. So all I have to do is click that, click add, whoops, and it updated the whole thing. Sorry about that. My fingers are moving faster than my brain right now. There we go. Click add and it shows up. All right, address. Once again, you'll want to put the street address so you'll get that embedded Google map. Interests and abilities. This describes what kind of work the volunteers will be doing. So you can see I've put skilled labor, advocacy, and physical labor. And much like causes, this will help match volunteers who also said that that is their interest and ability. Let's say I also want education to be a part of this, and when I click it, it'll just show up there. And that is it for needs. I did see that there was a question. If anyone has any more, please type them in before I move to the next section. Let me see what the question is. All right. Kathy asked, can you talk about in the initiative field? Kathy, I would be happy to. That initiative refers to something that site managers will put together, and it basically is a way to group opportunities all together so that if you have opportunities that are coming from different agencies, they will all be under the same umbrella. Kathy, are you a site manager, an agency manager, or both? All right, Kathy, you are going to learn more about initiatives later, and it's because it's not something that agency managers have as much control over. I'm not going to get too much more into it, but you will be learning about it in later trainings. Is that helpful? Awesome. Okay, y'all, again, if you have questions, go ahead and type them in. Meanwhile, let's go over to the events tab. So needs, our volunteer opportunities, they're calls to action. Events, however, are open to the entire community. They don't require volunteer participation. They're simply invitations to show up. People use events to describe parties. Like if you want to, we appreciate our community party. They can be used for fundraisers. They can be used for workshops. And in my example we're going to look over today, it's actually a workshop. And you can see we've got a table very similar to the needs table. And once again, you can click the boxes here and you get all of these options to delete, export the RSVPs, export a list of the events, or show the inactive ones. You can also add a new need by clicking here. However, we're going to go ahead and check out our DIY shelters for stray cats. Okay, you can see that it looks very similar to the needs section. You have your title, you have your description down here, but we have a little bit of something different, the RSVP button. You can have this off or on. When you turn it on, you'll have the option to put RSVP. or capacity. So if you only have, 20 chairs, just put in 20 and it'll show up as having 20 spots available. We always recommend turning on RSVPs, even if you don't have a capacity. It just helps you keep track of how many people are actually showing up. All right, moving down, you can make this an all-day event, or you can give a start and end time. The events are only to last one day. Moving down, you can make you can add an event contact person. It doesn't have to be you as the agency manager. It could be someone different. Once again, with the address box, a Google map will embed itself if you put the full address, and you can click update event and it will save everything you just did. So let's go ahead, now that we've looked at edit needs and events, we are going to check out what our agency profile looks like. We are going to come over here to the View tab, and when I click on this, I am taken to what a user will see when they look at my agency profile. They'll see my agency title, nice and big up here. They will see the who we are and what we do descriptions. They'll see a logo, and as you can see, I've made it big enough to fill up the whole thing. They will see the causes, and they will show up as icons, and they can hover their mouse over to see what they mean. They will see some of our needs, so our agency needs that we've created. They will see that contact information, and here's the location, and like I kept promising, here's the Google map. You can see the events. Since I've turned on RSVP, it says RSVP under both of them. You can see the links section. So here's a link to my website. You can see office hours, and you can see where I added employee day. You can see the agency video. Where it was a link, it actually is embedded a small video. And you can see all the images that are just rotating on their own here. And that is it for the first section of our training. I am now going to log out and see what it looks like from the user perspective. While I do that, if anyone has any questions, please type them into the chat box. All right, fantastic. So I am now signed out as an agency manager, and I am going to go into what it looks like as a user. So let's say that I am a user on this site, and I'm looking for volunteer opportunities. So I'm going to click Volunteer Now, and I am taken directly to a list of all the needs on the site. So this includes not just my agency, but all of the agencies who are registered on this site. So you can see my agency, East Asheville Animal Rescue, but I can also see the agency Community Food Bank. I can see the agency To Infinity and Beyond. I can see the agency Grassy Community Center. And this really demonstrates why it's so important to be posting needs regularly and to use duration types besides ongoing. These needs are automatically sorted by the one that was most recently edited. And in fact, you can see that we were just editing Clean Up the Dog Park, and here it is the very first one. Volunteers can also search by phrase. They can sort by newest first, oldest first, which means, again, the ones that were most recently updated, alphabetically, or soonest first, which excludes ongoing. And they can choose a specific filter by all of these categories. Let's go ahead and filter by interest. And I'm going to select my interest. Remember when we were making the interests earlier? I'm going to go ahead and select physical labor, click search, and all of these are needs that listed physical labor as one of the interests and skills. So I, as a volunteer, really want to respond to a need called Pats for Jody. So let's go ahead and come over here and click View Details. When I do that, I am taken to the agency need page. So I am taken to the need, specifically Pats for Jody. Here's the title of the need. I am shown the duration type, which is ongoing, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Here are the interests, which are physical labor and social. You can see the description as well as a very cute picture of Jody. Here's the location and the embedded Google map. And here are some additional details. You can see, because I left 13 as the minimum age and then left the maximum age blank, it just shows up as and older. And you can see these two on the bottom, these are the attributes. So these are the things that I just typed in that I want volunteers to really pay extra attention to. Okay, so as a volunteer, I am excited about this need, so I'm going to click Respond. When I do that, I will be prompted to either sign up, create a totally new account, or log in. I'm an existing volunteer, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. And we are going to log in as Joe. Okay, so we can see that Joe has been logged in and he is taken to the need response. Because he's wanted to respond to this need, he is taken here. So we can see he's given the name of the need, which is Pats for Jody, the need date. It doesn't have a date because it's ongoing. The agency name, East Asheville Animal Rescue, and the name of the volunteer. There will be some additional notes for him to fill out. This will vary on site to site. This might not be here at all, or it might be something different, but it'll always be something pretty easy for the volunteers to fill out. They'll click Submit Need Response. Okay, once Joe does this, he has the option to share that he is volunteering. If he clicks this, you can see he has the option to share on Facebook, Twitter, or a Google Plus account. If your site has set up donations, he also has the option to donate. He can click here and donate to your agency. Okay, so Joe is registered. He is excited to volunteer with Pats for Jody. Let's go ahead and really quickly check out what he can do for the agency. Let's say that Joe is excited about volunteering with East Asheville Animal Rescue Center again. To do this, he can actually become a fan. When he clicks this button, he will get updates that say when you as an agency manager post new needs and new events. So that's a really nice feature for him. Let's go ahead and check out his dashboard. When we click dashboard, we can see that Joe is given a really nice snapshot of all of his volunteer work. He can see how many hours he's volunteered, what interests he's volunteered with, even the impact value. He's also given the suggested needs, and once again, these match up with the causes that he's selected. And he's given some information on any latest events. Okay, let's go ahead and see what it's like for Joe to add hours. He can either do it here with the Add Hours button, or he can do it by clicking on his profile and selecting Track Hours. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so right now we are taken to a table of all of the things that Joe has volunteered with before. And if we scroll down, we are given the opportunity to even add more hours for Joe. So Joe is going to select the need. He selects Pats for Jody. That comes from the ones that he's responded to. He is going to say what day he worked. Let's say he worked yesterday for 2 hours. And let's say he traveled 5 miles. The miles traveled might be different on your site. He'll have the opportunity to type in a brief description. He can add +1 hours in case someone else came to volunteer with him who did not respond. And he might be given the option to fill out some custom questions. This may not be on your site. Once again, it depends on your site manager. Once he's filled everything out, he'll click Submit Hour Entry. And when he does that, he'll see that his hours are submitted. When we take a look back at his table, you can see that the hours he submitted are showing up in yellow, and we can see that they are pending approval. Now, we are going to see what it looks like for agency managers to approve those hours. And while I am signing out as Joe, I'd love to hear any questions you might have. All right, keep typing them in. I am going to sign back in as an agency manager. Awesome. Well, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to move forward. So, Joe has submitted a response. He has submitted hours. And now we are going to have the opportunity to approve those hours or decline them. So we're taken right back to the Edit tab, but we are going to come all the way over here to Time Tracking. When we are in Time Tracking, we will get first a table of all of the volunteer hours that need approval. We can approve them in bulk by clicking the top checkbox here, or we could do one by one, whichever works. And if we do it by bulk, we can click Approve and Deny up here. Or we can come over here in Status. You'll see there's a drop-down menu, and we can select Approved. Let's go ahead and do that for Joe. All right, when we do that, you see that it disappears, but don't worry, it's just moved to a different part of your site. So let's go ahead and check that out. We're in Time Tracking. We're going to pop over here to Stats. Okay, so Stats is probably my favorite section of the agency manager page, and I think it'll be your favorite section too. This is where all of the data associated with your needs and volunteers and their hours exists. So this is where you're going to get all that good information that you can give to your board, that you can use for writing grants, that you can brag about on social media. This is where you're going to get all of that good data. So let's go ahead and look at this. First of all of the stats automatically show what has happened in the past month. However, we can change this date range. So let's say I want to know what's been happening since the beginning of the year. All I do is click in here, go ahead and select January 1st, and you can see when I click Submit Date Range, that actually things have changed. Now you can see I had 11 views before. Now, including what has happened since January 1st, I've had 41 page views. It shows how many fans you have. And down here, it shows how many need responses you've had. So again, this is how many people have responded to a need saying that they'll be there. You get a list of everyone involved, everyone who's done it. And you can export that list by clicking this button here, and you'll get a nice little Excel spreadsheet, which has all of this information and more. Let's go ahead and check down here, active need hours. Just like the response hours, these are all the volunteers who have entered hours for the needs that they've volunteered with. And you can see we've got how many hours they've worked, the name of the user, their email. You can see the name of the need, what day they worked, and you can see that they're approved. We can even come all the way to the bottom here, and you can see 4/28, that's yesterday. You can see this is the one that we just approved. So back in time tracking, when we approved it, it came over here to join this table. And once again, we can see what the name of the need, the name of the volunteer, the day that he worked, and how many hours he worked. And that takes me to the end of our agency training. I am going to go ahead and stick around for, let me see, until 2:50. If you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in to the chat box. I'll be happy to help. And let me just say, I really appreciate you all showing up. You all are what make the site so wonderful. So it really couldn't be done without you. Just thanks again for showing up, and I hope you have a great day.